so I carry on. It's all I want in the world. My voice catches in my throat. And if you want something badly enough, then there's always a way to achieve it. He wrenches himself from my grasp and takes a step back from me, and in this moment he looks almost deranged. You're asking something that I cannot possibly give, he shouts. You've always been asking for something I can't give. First it was pity, and then it was protection, and then it was my care. You received all of those in abundance, so why now do you push me to give away my very existence for you? I'm not asking you to give up your life, I say, shaking with emotion. I'm asking you to live it, Lucius! Live, he repeats incredulously before he laughs a long, gurgled laugh in the darkest bitterness imaginable. How do you imagine we should live? We'd be tracked down by my colleagues within weeks, and they'd kill us both. You know that they would. I wouldn't be able to protect you against the power of the Dark Lord himself. I swallow quickly. The Order will protect us. The Order, he says in a voice his voice a low growl. Oh yes, you're all-powerful friends. Tell me, Mudblood, where was the Order when Dumbledore died? And where was the Order when you were taken prisoner? They're just as powerful as Death Eaters, I say repeatedly. They'd be able to help us, I know it. He smiles joyously. Somehow I very much doubt that they'll be willing to help me when I've dedicated my entire existence to bringing them down, especially when they find out what's going on between us. And with that, my words stop. Because I know it's true. I know it is. If we ever get out of here and go to the Order for help, they'll say that I've become attached to Lucius only because my mind's been addled by months of imprisonment, and Lucius will be arrested for rape, if nothing else. We stare at each other, our breathing heavy, until he eventually says the only thing I can cling to. Until eventually I say the only thing I can cling to. We could find a way, I whisper. He shakes his head, an odd, resentful smirk curling into the corners of his mouth. Damn you and your insufferable ideals, he mutters, turning away from me. I thought I'd cured you of them long ago. He leans against the stone wall, robbing me of the ability to see his face, to read his expression. Why can't he just let me in? It's over, Mudblood. What? Neither of us say anything. The silence is deafening and absolute. A cold trickle makes its way down into my gut. What? I stutter. He takes a deep breath and turns back to face me, his face like a rock, because he can't afford for his emotions to get in the way of what he has to do. I know it. I know him. If Avery has been sent here to spy on the pair of us, then surely it will only be a matter of time before he discovers what's going on. He pauses, and I can see his face flickering with genuine emotion, as much as he tries to disguise it. Unless we stop all of this now, that way he will no longer have anything to discover. I clench my hands into fists down by my sides, digging my nails into my palms, trying to get some control back. I don't understand. The words stumble hesitantly out of my mouth. A muscle goes in his cheek. He's trying to keep control, I know it. But no matter what he does, he can never quite keep his eyes from showing me everything I need to know about what exactly he's feeling these days. Yes, you do, he mutters, so low. His voice is so low I can barely hear it. You understood before I did. We have to end it, Mudblood. It's the only solution. I close my eyes for a moment, lost in pain. Isn't this what I've always wanted? Isn't this what I've wanted all this time? How could I possibly have wanted this? Somehow I force my eyes open. Force myself to look into his face of the man who's tearing both of our hearts out simultaneously. His face is rigid. There's too much space between us, too much. I need to breach it. I take a step forward and then another, and he stays where he is, although he looks very much as if he were forcing himself to do so. You're going to abandon me? After everything? I ask, my voice a trembling flutter of a whisper. After everything we've been through for each other? After you risked everything to come after me at the burrow? You killed Dola off for me. Has all of that meant nothing to you? Has it all been for nothing? Excuse me? Has it all been for nothing? I reach out with a shaky hand, but I falter and I drop my hand before it reaches him. I've lost everything for you. I barely hear my own voice. I can't stand there and tell me that you wrecked my whole life for your own selfish weakness, and now you just want to give it all up without a fight. He shakes his head, and I can see the pain in his eyes. You've got to understand, he mutters. If Avery finds out about us, he will tell the Dark Lord immediately. And when he finds out... He pauses for a moment before he collects himself. We'd both be dead in a moment. He himself might even do the honors. But I don't understand. You told me so many times that you weren't afraid to die. If that's still the case, then why are you afraid now? Suddenly he reaches out and grips me by the hair, pulling me closer to him, and I whimper in pain, but I can feel our bodies touching through our robes, and I can't breathe. I just can't. All I can do is feel him. His breathing shakes over my cheek. He loosens his grip from my hair and pulls himself together. But still he holds me close, looking desperately into my face. This is the only way. Don't you see? And he hasn't answered my question. But he doesn't need to. Not really. I know what he fears losing now. I didn't even really need to ask the question in the first place. And for a moment his face is close to mine, close enough to kiss, and I hope that he does, because if he does, then it might be enough to stay. Then it might be enough for him to stay. But he grits his teeth and pulls back from me. You'll die if I don't do this, he whispers. And I won't witness that. I'll die anyways. The words roll out of my mouth in a long, tangled ribbon as I slide my hands down into his shoulders. Avery said only today that Mr. and Mrs. Weasley are rebelling against you. And that pretty soon you won't need me anymore. His nostrils flare as he takes in the deepest of breaths to steady himself. Which means it's going to be harder than ever for you to keep me alive. Ha 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 ha. That is not air talking. Excuse me. His nostrils flare as he keeps in the darkest of breaths to steady himself. Which means it's going to be harder than ever for me to keep you alive. His voice is so quiet I can't tell whether it's shaking or not. God knows, the Dark Lord could easily ask me to kill you myself as a test of my loyalty. But if I distance myself from you, then perhaps he'll forget about you and leave you be. I pause, my heart throbbing in my throat. Would you do it? I ask, my fingernails digging into his shoulders. If he ordered you to kill me, would you do it? He winces. Of course I would, is all he says, quietly, but without any hesitation whatsoever. Coward, I whisper. He almost smirks. Isn't this what you wanted, Mudblood? Whispers. Time and time again, you've tried to end what's going on, and I've denied you. You haven't always been so eager to keep me close to you. I feel a kick of hysterical anger in my gut. This won't be made any easier by you being cruel to me, Lucius, I whisper passionately. You know as well as I did that I couldn't end it. I wanted to, but I couldn't. You know that. I stand on my tippy toes and I press my lips to his, curling my hands over his shoulders, and for a moment his guard is lost, and his stiff body relaxes against mine, merging into it, and his mouth falls open, and the kiss deepens and hardens as his hands grip hard around my waist, pulling me closer. But he breaks away suddenly, ripping himself from me and leaving me cold and alone. No! I keep doing that, it is so weird. No, he mutters, refusing to look at me. Damn you! You must let me do this! He walks quickly to the door, turning to face me as he reaches it. I'm trembling with what I know to be impending agony. When he leaves this room, it'll all be over. And then, oh, damn it! I almost said it. You almost got me. You almost got me. Ooh. And then, what then? What will there be for me when he's gone? He's not dying. I'll still see him every day. But how can it be the same? I don't want to just see him every day. I want to be with him every moment. His knuckles are pure white as they grip onto the door at the door handle. There's no color in his face at all. There's no color at all in his face. I keep reading everything backwards. It's so awkward. His eyes are huge, great black holes in his mask-like face. I'm hurting you for your own good, he mutters, his voice far from stable. You have to forget that any of this ever happened. We both do. But how can I promise that? He knows as well as I do that I couldn't forget him any sooner than I could forget my own name. And from the look of his face, the same applies to him. I take a deep breath and a shiver spasms through my body. For our own good, Lucius, is all I say, and it comes out in the tiniest of whispers. All he does for a long, agonizing moment is stare at me. In time, you'll understand, he says, his voice impossibly tight, before he turns quickly and leaves the room, slamming the door shut behind him with such force it seems to shake his head, to shake the room. I stare ahead of me, the closed door swimming before my eyes. For perhaps half a minute, all I can hear is complete and utter silence, and I hope, and I pray, that he'll come back, that he won't be able to leave, that he won't break my heart in two. But after eternity filled with agonizing hope, I hear swift footsteps move down the corridor, away from me, away from everything there ever was between us. And I sway where I stand, catching my breath in sharp gulps. I feel dizzy. I feel cold. I feel tears well up inside of me, threatening to consume me, take me over, drown me in misery. I love you, I whisper, but there's the silence and emptiness of the room swallows my words whole. He's just gone. A sob burst out of me, hot and dry and ragged, and without even thinking about what I'm doing, I turn and I run into the bathroom, covering my hands with my mouth so I feel my stomach churn and over like a washing machine. My bare feet slap on the cold floor as I run, desperate to escape at all the agony of my own emotions. I can't breathe. I can't think properly. All I know is that he's gone, and it's over, he said. Never again. Ever. He's left me all alone. And I love him. God help me, it's true. I stumble into the bathroom and barely reach the toilet in time before I wrench the lid up and vomit into the clean white porcelain bowl. Wasn't that epic? Sorry. That was epic. I'd say something else, but I have to be able to make this fit. Sorry.